at the end of the day, you've got clearly a gigantic amount of pressure to protect a narrative that this is just he's just a dude who killed himself in a jail cell, who hung out with a bunch of other billionaires and had an island.
Hey, speaking of being lied to, let's talk about the Jeffrey Epstein list. Let's go. I've just kind of watched this from afar, but and Salty, I'm sure that you are you know more about this than I do, but I think it's important that we do talk about it. This is a gaming and entertainment podcast. This list is littered with entertainers from top to bottom, apparently. And I don't know, give us a quick background and overview on this, because I'm sure you follow this much deeper than I have, Salty.
Yeah, Epstein ran a honeypot island, and they were honeypotting the worst of the worst and incriminating influential figures from multiple countries in order to make sure that they stay in line and they're compromised and they're ordered around. And the dude had been arrested for child trafficking. I want to say the early 2000s. And him and his consort over there continued to not only traffic children and hang out with influential people, but then he got caught again. And then he got killed inside his jail cell. And the mainstream media apparatus tried to pretend that he didn't get killed in his jail cell because they need to protect this notion that Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell are just a figment of the conservative right's imagination, and pedophile islands and honeypots don't exist, and just go along with your day. Nobody of any power is compromised. It's all rainbows and sparkles and sprinkles and unicorn farts out there. Just keep going. Nothing to see here. And we refuse to let these people live in that fantasy land.
So there was a flight log, because that's the idea of the list, right? The list was the flight log of all the people that were chartered from his plane to this island where really bad things happened. Is that right?
Well, there's a lot of things getting mixed in right now.
Mm-hmm.
So there are flight manifestos, because every flight is registered, and so the people going on these flights to the island, there's got to be some sort of list of that. But then this guy was a billionaire hanging out with other billionaires, and they were all in planes together. So there are flight lists being mixed around all over the place, and it's being used in a way to cover up the people who are politically preferential to the establishment. And so they'll say, well, look, Donald Trump was on the flight list, but the flight list that Donald Trump was on was because he flew from Mar-a-Lago to New Jersey on the dude's plane, not that he flew from New Jersey or Florida to this island. And they're conflating these two so they can muddy the waters. But there is a list of people who flew to the island. That's the incriminating one. And there's going to be another list of people who they just did transactions with.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there's a list of people who flew, and then there's a separate list that has actual receipts.
Yeah, you're gonna find a list of people that money was transferred for. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to
say.
Services. Right. Yeah, there's going to be that. Well, like Ghislaine Maxwell's got a black book of people that she was, trafficking children too. So that's another list. And what was unsealed by this court was a deposition.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got a woman being deposed, and she's talking about the different people that she saw on the island, different people that Maxwell and Epstein were talking about. And so there's a whole deposition of her being questioned and her giving answers, and people are pulling names out of that right now. So that's making another list, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Okay. So it sounds like there's multiple. Okay. So there's the deposition, which has just been released, and that's like 900 pages or something, you said?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And then there is a separate list, which is the flight list. Then there's another list, which is people mentioned in the deposition. Then there's going to be another list, which is the client list. Is that accurate? Okay.
Yeah. At least. I mean, there's going to be more stuff too, but those are the big ones.
Right. I think that's kind of the fascinating thing about this. And to be clear, right? Let's just say let's just say Trump, right? You said, well, Trump wasn't on the list to the island, right? But he used it for like, just because you're on a, to be very fair, just because you're on a flight list does not mean that you did anything bad, right? Like, I think that's why the client list is the killer here. I mean, that
Yeah.
looking at a little bit of a from a naive perspective, but maybe I'm just an idiot because I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. But it definitely is a strong indicator that something bad happened when you go to a place like, you know, if you go to a place where they slaughter pigs, you're probably going to be there to slaughter pigs. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. But so do we know? I've just seen a few names and very interesting names that have been on this, that have been in the court filings so far. And this is from BBC, which Blabs, by the way, what does BBC mean, Blabs?
The British Broadcasting Corporation.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. Thanks.
I didn't know which definition you want, but I'd be nice and Salty's here. I'll be very elegant today.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. This is from BBC. They said Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton are named in the court files, which anytime a former president has been listed in this place, you wonder like when and how often, and did he do it while he was a president of the United States? So there's all sorts of questions here. And then the other one that was crazy to see was we were talking about it before the show. What's his name, Blabs? Stephen Hawking?
Yeah, Stephen motherfucking Hawking, which is just, ew. Because he can't do anything, right? So you have to have these younger women touching him. And what is he gonna do? Hit like control buttons? Go, oh my, yes, good. Like what?
with his robot voice.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Please, more, daddy. Yes. Gross. So my first thought was like when I heard Prince Andrew, my thought was the younger guys, because I don't keep up with the whole royalty thing. But it's not that guy. It's this guy apparently. I don't know who this guy is. Who's this guy? Why should I know who he is?
Are you serious? That's Prince Andrew.
Yeah, who is it? He's the prince of what?
That's Queen Elizabeth's child.
Fuck if I know. Like I don't know these things.
How do you not know this stuff?
I know the king guy, the king
guy.
With the
oh,
ears,
hell,
and I know his sons. I know his sons. So this guy was Diddle and Little.
Yeah, that is King Charles's brother.
Okay.
Queen Elizabeth II's child. Actually, her favorite child. Funny enough, weird, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
What other names have we heard that are, I guess, rumored to be on this? Do you know any names, Salty, that have been supposedly on this list? I've heard like Tom Hanks. Like, and if Tom Hanks is on this, it's like holy shit.
I saw like, Cameron Diaz. Like what?
I think there's like an information war going on. People are throwing out names that aren't on there,
right?
As a way to get people to say, "Well, that list isn't real." Alan Dershowitz was on the list. He came out and said, "Well, yeah, I'm on the list because I was the dude's lawyer. So yeah, I did meet with the guy. I did go on the airplane with him. I saw Michael Jackson last night, but I haven't seen anything today, so I don't know." Again, people were pointing out Jimmy Kimmel. That part of the transcript looks fake. And so it's going to take a few days for the dust to settle and for the actual real names out of the deposition to be solidified.
I think that's the other thing is like, how do we know if any of this is true? You know, if these are scans and information is modified. So as you mentioned, the Jimmy Kimmel scan, and you say, oh, it looks fake, right? To the casual person just going by, you say, oh, Jimmy Kimmel, Cameron Diaz, Stephen Hawking. You know, like at this point, by the way, Michael Jordan was also there. Did you hear about that? Michael Jordan was on Pedo Island. You know, it's like, oh, did you hear LeBron James was too, by the way. Oh, and I also want to point out that the Queen of Switzerland was there too. You know, you just start throwing out these names and all of a sudden it becomes, you know, public discourse and you go, oh, yeah. You know, so like part of me wants to be really responsible and be like, we're not going to say the names until we know. But the other part of me is like, who's on the fucking list, you know? So I guess we'll see, man. I guess we'll see. I don't know. The other aspect of this, which is really, really crazy, is this was all just a giant, like, I hate using the term conspiracy theory because I heard a guy say the phrase non-mainstream theory. That's a better way to describe it. This was a non-mainstream theory for a decade, 15 years, whatever. And you hear about these things. Well, there's this island that this billionaire flies people into, and you're like, fuck that. This isn't some Bond movie. And now, like, I was watching YouTube TV last night, and on there, this is major news. NBC's talking about, like, all your traditional outlets that never would have even acknowledged this are having to talk about this because this is major news, and that's a shift in things as well.
Yeah, it's got big ramifications coming out of it, and I think that you were never supposed to hear about this dude. Certainly, we weren't supposed to hear about his associates. He was arrested for this years ago, and people were so the dude was so insulated that after being charged, arrested, and detained as a child trafficker, people like Bill Gates would still hang out with him openly. So they thought that they had a lockdown on any of this information getting out, and that's not that long ago. I mean, there's a picture of Ghislaine Maxwell after Epstein had been arrested. She's at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. She's in the back. You can see she actually sticks her head out. You can see she's clearly there. This is after her longtime partner had been arrested for trafficking children. Then she gets caught and arrested for trafficking children. So the reason why Rolling Stone and the reason why ABC News as a studio protected this dude is because the dude has compromised high-level people, and it's not a conspiracy theory. This is just how criminal organizations work. Criminal organizations that are transacting in the billions and billions and billions of dollars and peddling influence at that level are not just going to let anybody inside of their meetings. They're not going to let anybody inside their limited hangouts. You have to be compromised. You have to have receipts that they can pull on you. That's just your gangs at street level operate that way. They make new people kill people in order to get into the gangs. The mafia did the same thing. These are high level criminals operating at a high level, playing high stakes games. They are compromised at the highest order, and they want people to think that that's a conspiracy theory, and they're trying to keep the wraps on it, but it's not working. There's an awakening that's clearly happening.
So from an entertainment perspective, I've seen this talked about for obviously several years. Like I said, this does seem very like super Bond villainish, like mega Bond villainish. Like at what point does this guy? Well, and these are questions that I don't know. Like, how did Epstein make his money? Is it all through blackmail and like that's the whole idea? Do we know that?
Well, he had a front where he was like a finance manager or a broker, and that's supposed to be where he legitimately got his money. But I'd be shocked if that was his sole source of income. I think there's a lot of different rabbit holes you could go down with this guy. Some people will say that he's Mossad. Some people will say that he's FBI or CIA. At the end of the day, the dude died in such a ridiculous fashion, and you watched the entire mainstream media apparatus run out there and try to gaslight everybody. Nobody's buying it. And so at the end of the day, you've got clearly a gigantic amount of pressure to protect a narrative that this is just he's just a dude who killed himself in a jail cell, who hung out with a bunch of other billionaires and had an island. Nothing to see, just move on. But it's not working. We turned it into a meme, and we have outpaced legacy media, and we have circumvented big tech oligarchs. And so you're watching this situation unfold, and it's just getting worse. They never wanted to talk about this dude. Like, they never wanted to talk about him, and now we're getting depositions from people that he trafficked.
Which is the most fascinating thing about it. When you say they, who do you mean by they? They never. Just like, who is they?
Well, they are the people who are there seems to be a group of people who transcend national borders, and they want to have a people go, oh, the NWO, the world government. There's just always been a group of people who want to take the population and oppress them, just strangle them. And I don't think that's if human history is littered with these attempts, it would be foolish and naive to think that it's not happening now. And so you've got a bunch of people who are working in the same direction with the same means to get the same outcome. And that's the only message that is allowed through all of these legacy operations that they still control. So print media, sports ball players, Hollywood weirdos, the movie studios. If you deviate from any of these planks of globalism, then you are kicked out and excommunicated, and they take all of your money and they try to unperson you. And so I don't think that's an accident. I think that's on purpose. And I think there's a reason why the same messaging and the same script is in every single Western civilization at the same time.
Do we have any examples of people who have been kicked out of the club?
I think what's happened is you've seen a almost like a molting where, you know, this new generation, they're not gonna say anything. There's nobody in Hollywood. There's nobody any of these studios who's going out there and saying, listen, I've got a slight problem with telling children it's okay to cut their dicks off. They won't even go, like, they won't even say that. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Older people who aren't going to be making movies anymore will say stuff like that. You've got John Voight.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Kevin Sorbo. You've got Dean Cain. You got a bunch of people who are, you're just never going to see them ever again. They're not going to be in any of those movies anymore.
Right. So they resided the idea that, like, they've made it, they're good, they have their money or whatever. They're just never going to work in Hollywood again, and that's fine. It is what it is.
Or they're just going to stand by their principles.
Right.
These might be sane individuals who are like, listen, I'm not going to go along with this. You know, I don't want to go. Yeah, like Ricky Gervais is never going to host anything ever again. He's never going to be at the Golden Globes. He's certainly not going to be at the Emmy. They'll go back and get Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel's going to do it again. Jimmy Kimmel has lost 75% of the audience that he since taking over that show. So he's losing audience, but you're going to keep bringing him back. Ricky Gervais can sell tickets to, he can sell out anything, but he won't come back. Gina Carano, Alan over there, it's a great point. Gina Carano, another example. She just said, hey, look, there's some similarities to World War II. All stuff they're now saying, by the way, but they say it in the direction of conservatives. So it's fine to make those connections between the past. And so it's very telling that it's all this, it's every plank across every sector, across multiple things. Like, you have to take this like, you can't question masks, you can't question experimental injections, you can't question Epstein, you can't question cutting your balls off, you can't question open board. Like, you're not allowed to question any of those, or you won't make money ever again in Hollywood. And all of these people in Hollywood are whores, and so they're not going to deviate from that. I mean, Chris Pratt got attacked for wearing an American flag on his shirt, or Gadsden flag.
Right. Is there a theory or something that is not, you know, obviously the big thing is, you know, you mentioned cutting the dick off and the open borders and stuff, but is there something that is being talked about that maybe you know, I said 10 years ago, if you would have said 15 years ago, if you said there's an island where these things are happening, people go like, that's fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What's the thing that people are talking about now that they're saying this is going to happen in 10 years? Or this is going to, you know, have you heard any of that stuff that I should know about now?
Oh, so what we would say is crazy now, but it's definitely going to happen in 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're telling us we're going to eat bug burgers. they're telling us that we're not going to own anything. They're telling us that we're going to own nothing, eat bugs. We're all going to live in these coffin apartments with Ready Player One goggle thingies and stuff like that. Listen, if we don't stand up to these people, then yeah, we will. We will definitely end up with that. You won't be able to own a car. You won't be able to. You'll have to like I think probably 15-minute cities is probably what the goal is, and it sounds like a wild conspiracy theory right now, where you have to you have to check your car, you take your phone and you check your current carbon levels and your social media score, and that'll tell you whether or not you're allowed to go out today. And if these people get what they want, then yeah, we will definitely end up in 15-minute cities as long as we continue to resist. There's a good chance that we won't.
Just to tie this together, I don't know if you saw this today. Warner Brothers has partnered with AI company Futureverse to make Ready Player One a real thing. The Readyverse is called the definitive destination for fans to explore their favorite stories and IPs in the metaverse. So just to kind of tie this all together to what you were just saying about, living in that space. So making it all Ready Player One.